Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. And for once, Polly's on time, even though the show's not. And I will take full responsibility for that, even though, um, technically I told Polly about it earlier.
You said May, and we will play it by ear.
But I did say
Which,
something about it.
you did. You vaguely referenced it. It's true,
Yes.
and which is why, if you look at your DMs, you'll see some 10 minutes before the show. It's like, are we doing it this week? I remember you said something, but then I didn't ask you about it, and
Well,
then
did you
so
did
forth.
you did you read the text message, the DM that I sent you before? That you sent that
What the one?
the one from December 20th?
Hold on. Let's see what the one from December 20th says. I remember there's you said maybe, maybe not, and play it by ear is where it was left. What?
I said might have to push our show back.
It might, may, possibly, but you
Yeah.
know.
But then you never responded.
You keep using that. That's not a thing. That doesn't work.
You gotta acknowledge that you that you read something so that I know that you know about this thing that I like
All right. This
told
listen,
you
chat.
about.
Chat. Weebs and I have this hilarious idea for a short Christmas special. It's hilarious. Okay. I now I just want to get it done before Christmas for all of y'all and for my entertainment as well, because it's gonna be funny as fuck to do. But Weebs she's very busy, admittedly, and that's fine. That's not just fine. That's the way that it works. So I'm just trying to find a spot to do it. And Weebs is like, well, you didn't get back to me. And I said, well, I asked you, and then you said like some smart ass thing. And it's like, yes, but you didn't respond to it. I've come to learn that Weeb schedules through Bants, and it's
Okay, all right. You asked me my schedule of availability between like the time that we were talking and this Sunday or whatever. And I said, tomorrow morning I have some time. Also, Sunday is my Nana's birthday. So I'll be out and we might have to push things back. And so like I cleverly meshed those together and you never responded. So I didn't know if yesterday morning was okay with you because that's what it would have been if we had collabed at all.
this is the saddest apologetics I've come across in some
It's
time.
not an apology, Polly.
No, I didn't say it was an apology. I said it was apologetics.
It came nowhere near that. I would never apologize. Who do you think I am? A woman?
Women
Just
are in a
kidding.
constant state of apology. Is that what you're saying?
They're
Do
more
you have your dual camera
apologetic.
set up?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Unfortunately, I had to leave the other one at the school because I have to keep everything light when I pack because I have to drive places and I have to travel places and it's a whole big mess. So we'll okay. You know what?
Shio,
I got you.
stop it. That's fucking okay. That's kind of funny, but stop it.
All right. You know what? Because I don't have a dual camera set up, I will do this one special thing. All right.
Whoa.
All right. All right. Are you ready? I'll read it like this.
Yes, I'm ready.
Thank you, Pinkolo, the driving ape man, for the 2 over in the super chats. Heyo! And also Connor Johnson for the 5 over on the super chats. Of all the feature films that you've seen so far this year, which films do you recommend the most? Is that all that I have? Hang on, let me double check the dashboard, the Streamlabs. Yep, okay, no, we're good. Okay, so I can resume my normal face. Okay, so in terms of films, which one do I recommend the most? Okay. It's a little bit obscure, obviously, because even though it wasn't in theaters and it premiered and I saw it for free, probably not a lot of people saw it. Not as many people as should have seen it. Peanut Butter Falcon. Polly, have you heard of this movie?
No.
Okay. I won't give too many spoilers away, but it's basically the story of, like, the greatest character arc that Shia LaBeouf has ever had in a movie, coupled with a kid with Down syndrome learning to, be his own person. It's unique. It's new. It's not something that you're used to. It's funny. It's emotional. It's gut wrenching, but it's also super good in terms of film. and it's new. Like, it's not something that you're used to in terms of cinematography or film or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
we're all used to a whole bunch of superheroes just being spat out at us every once, twice maybe a year, or a remake of a prequel of a film franchise that we used to love in the 80s or whatever. Not that I was alive in the 80s, but it's completely unique in that aspect. And not just for that reason do I like it, but that's a big part of the reason why I like it, because it's fresh. So that's my recommendation.
Nice.
Polly, what about you?
Um, well, I'm not sure if I was even being asked, but I think that was directed at you, but I'll answer anyway. Um, it didn't say new feature film, just feature. I
Fair.
I went over and reviewed the entire Dirty Harry film series. I know, hear me out. If you haven't seen it or you haven't seen it recently, rewatch it in sequence. Like, go in and do a deep dive on a binge of Dirty Harry. I mean, it fuck you, Ebert, that it's an authoritarian fascist film. That's what he said. That was his review when it came out. This is clearly a fascist movie. You're wrong. It's awesome. Go check out the entire series. I am never not tickled by the fact that Inspector Harry Callahan is in San Francisco. I love that so much. He's out cleaning up dirt bags in San Francisco. That's fucking awesome. It's. Do we ever need a Callahan now? There, huh? It's you dumping human feces in the street. Not in my town. It's Weebs. Have you ever seen any of the Dirty Harry films?
I might have, because here's the thing, right? I've seen a lot of movies through the lens of my dad put it on the TV and I had no choice but to watch it, but I didn't retain the titles of a great many of these films that he put on the TV, so I
Mm-hmm.
could have, I just have no absolute clue if I did or not. So maybe, maybe not.
Oh, fair enough. I I think they're thought of like almost like Predator would be your Commando in the sense of like 80s actions schlock. When I mean, first of all, they had their origins in the 70s. They're a hell of a lot less schlocky and more gritty than I remember them being.
Hmm.
Um, I got a lot more French connection than Commando in watching them. Kind of fucking awesome. Great to revisit. Yeah, Assassin of the Great. A man's got to know his limitations. Yeah, that's a Magnum Force. Legendary. With Hal Holbrook was the. It's the origins of so many tropes that you've seen in a million different places. Weaves the angry sergeant. It's like, you're out of line. You're a loose cannon, Callahan.
Oh yeah,
You
I
can't
thought
go
all
around violating
sergeants.
people's rights. And it's like, I get results. Damn your procedures. Like, that whole back and forth is
Yeah.
that's the genesis of it, and it's fucking fantastic. And Clint Eastwood in his heyday, does anyone have a more steely gaze than Eastwood?
I
I
don't know.
think not.
I think I have a pretty steely gaze. I think I give him a run for his money, even when drunk. I have been known to give people the stink eye.
Well, there's the stink eye, like you done me wrong and I'm going to say something sassy and retort, and then there's the steely gaze of I'm going to lay out some cold justice with warm lead.
I can do that.
You look like you smelled a bad fart.
Yeah, and that's the onset of my justice with lead. Polly.
Just, I'm gonna go back and grab a copy of that. I need a copy of the weeb. I mean, that's the stink eye, but not so much stink coming from you that you've detected stink.
Okay, all right. Hang on. Let me try again.
All right.
Because I was laughing.
Okay. Well, that's I don't know. That looks like sexy determined.
God damn it, Polly! You're missing the point.
It's not my fault.
All right, how about this?
No, that's I'm adorable, aren't I? Agree with me.
No!
Come on, chat, back me up on
All
this.
right, all right, all right. Now you've brought out the devil.
Now I'm shook. I feel it now.
Are you ready to suffer, Polly?
Yeah.
My terrifying gaze. Woo!
So Weebs told me that she was going to be back by 10 p.m. Eastern, and she said that after 10 p.m. So I was joking with her. She must have a time machine. But that did bring a question to mind that I had. Weebs, you read about histories and the things.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the question for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back in time, you have a time machine, but your limitations are as such. You have to know the exact date and place you're going. It can't be kind of around sort of then. Like you have to, it's like Doc Brown's DeLorean. You have to type in the time. You know what I mean? And you can only be there for 5 minutes. Where and when would you go?
April 4th, 1998. At like 6 a.m.
Is that your birth date?
Yes, exactly.
I'm like, wait, what? That seems like a pretty inauspicious day. What the hell?
Yeah, that's the day I was born.
You want to witness your own birth?
Yeah, I mean, how many people can say that?
Not many. I don't know how many would want to.
Would you rather witness your own birth or your own conception, Polly? Come on, priorities.
Though that's a false choice. What the fuck? Why are those the options?
You have to watch yourself come into the world, the miracle that is yourself. Me, Weebo.
I really that like you could witness the Athenian democracy occurring. You could witness.
I don't have an exact date, Polly, and I don't think you.
No, but you could pick it in there. You could like from date X to date Y. You could land in the.
Because think about this, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. Calendars have changed over time, so there's no certainty that you would be able to actually specifically pick a date in order to witness this thing. Like I would. Oh, no, absolutely.
Hold on. Slow your roll. Like, I mean, like we assume that you can because yes, we're going off of a Gregorian calendar, but let's just say that you could. Like, I mean, the previous Julian calendar, the adjustments are available.
Okay, but what if I want to see something that predates any calendar? Because calendars are a human invention.
Monkeys in chat. I can't resist doing this because I've been drinking. I'm going to channel monkey right now. Okay.
Oh.
Calendars are not a human invention. Whether humans are here to witness it or not, one day will come and then another one after that. It's all happening in sequence, and the Earth is going around the sun. Calendars aren't a human invention because years pass whether we're here to see it or not.
You know that October is supposed to be the 8th month, but it's not. It's actually the 10th month because of the inclusion of July and August. The only reason we have 12 months in a year is because a Roman emperor decided that he wanted to name 2 months after himself. So yes, it is most certainly...
Stop. Octavian renamed a month after him, and after Caesar's death, they renamed July after the...
Oct literally is Latin for 8.
So what? That's what you're talking about is not the inclusion of the renaming of August after Octavian. It's the reordering of the Julian calendar you're thinking of, which was done by Caesar. Yes, but
but still remains the fact that I have to plug in my computer because it's about to die. Still, the fact remains that a human reordered the calendar, and so dates have been changed. The ability to actually align specific times with other specific times in accordance with either of those calendars is made all the more difficult because some asshole decided I'm just gonna tweak this a little bit, just a little bit.
No, Monkey. So Monkey says no. Calendars are an invention to track the passage of time, which isn't a human invention. The passage of time is not a human invention.
No, certainly
the
not.
days and the years pass by.
Passage of time is not a human invention, but the idea of assigning an actual specific date to it is a human invention. So your hypothetical was contingent upon me having the exact specific date and time in order to go back to exactly that specific time, right? That's what you said.
It was, but the thing about monkeys, I'm just busting his balls for his whole opinion on mathematical constructs because I'm drinking and he's here, and I thought I'd make fun of him a little bit.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go when he wasn't here. That would just be mean. But yeah, it was absolutely back to what you're saying. It was contingent upon you knowing the exact date. So like, let's say like I don't know. Let's say I want to see Caesar stabbed out in the Senate on like the Ides of March, right? It's I'd have to take a guess at when that was going to happen. Odds are you could nail it pretty well. The problem is where are you going to land in the 5 minutes? Because it's like they did it in the morning or late afternoon. I can't remember. So you kind of have to do. But he laid there for hours and hours and hours. So you could at least see him dead on the Senate floor.
I don't know. Depending on where they stabbed him, you might be able to catch him in the throes of dying too, because depending on where you stab a person, it takes them a while to bleed out. Depending on where you stab them, obviously.
Well, he did get stabbed by some 30 senators, so I mean.
Yeah, but you know what? Senators aren't known for their ability to stab people. They're more so
they're
known
not exactly
for their
knife
ability
artists,
to
are
be
they?
annoying, incompetent, greedy, and all that jazz. So, like,
patrician and all.
Like if they're aiming for the jugular,
See, I was kind of hoping for an answer, honestly, like Monkey gave. He said Apollo 11 near launch, enough to watch it with my naked eye, 30 seconds to lift off. That's a pretty good answer. I like that. I mean, that wouldn't be my choice, but that's a pretty fucking good one.
Okay, so if you want like an actual answer, not contingent upon me knowing the specific date, right? I would have to go with the origin of the universe. I'd like to see how everything began.
Yeah. What?
You said time travel, right? So I can go back
all
the way to the
beginning.
beginning.
You could.
Which doesn't have a specific date set to it, right?
Not enough for you to nail it down to 5 minutes.
Exactly.
And of course, remembering that if you go back to the origin of the universe, it's not just. Oh fuck! You're making me be fucking sanguine here for a minute, and God knows I don't want to do that. I mean, just in terms of getting like hyper nerdy, like the further you go back in time, the less meaning time has because it's not time, it's space time. So as space is shrunk and you want to see the origin of the universe, there's no extant time because time requires that space exists. And if space doesn't exist, how are you going to go back? I don't know. What the fuck?
Oh, were you there? How do you know?
Well, that's true. I wasn't there.
Exactly. So, like, the very instant that the domino was set in motion to actually procure the rest of everything that followed, that instant right there. Like, was it a bang?
And Ryan Walters has a good point. How would you breathe at the origin of the universe? Well, we're assuming you're in a time pod, that there's air inside this DeLorean we're suggesting.
Okay.
Okay. What else? The origin of the universe and what was the other one again?
Well, my birth, obviously. I'd like to see
your birth, the
creation,
weird one.
or
right.
the production, not the production, but the me enter into this lovely universe.
So, I mean, I think that this is worthy of psychological analysis.
I agree.
The two things that you want to see are the origin of the universe and then the origin of yourself. A little fixated there on little self-interested, perhaps. The two most important things that ever happened were the birth of the universe and the birth of me. Are you staring intently or have you frozen? I'm going to go with frozen. Yeah, not only your camera froze, I think your whole computer froze. Anyone still hearing me? She was talking bad about time travel. Now time is frozen for her. Don't you see it? I see it.
I'm back.
Holy Christ, you've gone back. Oh, for a split second there were two of you. You've gone back in time and duplicated yourself.
Polly, why you gotta be so rude? Kick me from my own stream. What did I ever do to you?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so what were you asking before I died?
I was describing your narcissism and believing the two most important events worth witnessing were the universe and you.
Okay. Third one on this list, I guess, would be the end of the universe too.
Oh Jesus! This is this conversation is not turning out like I had hoped.
What did you want me to say? Okay, Troy.
I don't know.
wanna
I
see
thought
the
you were going
fall
to
of
name some
Troy.
interesting point in history that I wasn't thinking of, like Polly's Monkey 11. Jesus Christ, Monkey's Apollo 11. Jeez.
The Monkey 11. Yes, I too am familiar with this. Well, I mean, like,
I just mean I
you're...
thought I was going to hear interesting historical references that I hadn't thought of that might be an interesting place to see.
Well, okay. The way that I see it, right? We always... There are no archaeological records, no carbon dating that we can use to approximate anything that has to do with the beginning or the end of the universe. We know nothing about those two events. Absolutely not. We can only speculate as to what happened or what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we will never know. Likely. Most likely. So I would like to know the two most impossible questions. How everything began and how everything ends. Because anything else, right? Like, if I go too far in the future, then I realize... if I go too specific, too far in the future, then I start to, I don't know, determine the rest of my life based off of that. And if I see anything in the past, then I'm either confirming or just uprooting everything that I already know, or might know, or speculate to know. And that's not super interesting.
Well, you got Pete here, and he says he wants to see the building of the pyramids to know how it was done. Wouldn't you like to see if there was a giant lattice structure built around the pyramid, or a ultra long ramp that some people have proposed that would actually be a bigger project than the pyramid itself, it seems. The list goes on in and around the pyramid. And wouldn't you like to see that they weren't black, you white supremacist?
Well, okay, if I had an unlimited amount of time travel at my beck and whim, I would see it all. Absolutely.
No. The idea was one.
I know. If I only
the
have one, I'm going to go big or go home. I'm not going to waste it on something, trivial like 5 minutes of the Trojan War happening. You gotta think grand scheme of things, Polly. Big picture. Come on, you only give me 5 minutes. One time.
Mm-hmm. So
you're not gonna see the beginning
and so the beginning of the universe, like as the way it gets displayed in fiction, is like, I mean, first of all, it's not the Big Bang, it's the big expansion or big inflation that they refer to it now, because it's not a bang, it was a bang and then slow outgrowth. It's the only way to explain the slow rate at which the universe is expanding, as I understand it. Because if it was an actual fucking boom, the universe would have flown apart by now, because the force of gravity wouldn't have been enough to hold it together over the last several trillion years. But anyway, that's outside my field.
Assassin of the Grey demands a 24-hour window, not 5 minutes. 5 minutes
I
is
demand.
A little bit limited. I mean, five minutes.
Yep.
5 minutes is an abysmally short time period.
It is, and that's supposed to be the challenge of it. It's like fuck, marry, kill. It's supposed to be frustratingly limited. Thus hard choices become the thing. But if you were to see the origin of the universe, as I was saying, like as it's displayed in fiction, it would be a white flash there. Yay.
You don't know that.
Okay, it would be a purple flash, which...
You still don't know that. No one knows that, which is part of the appeal of why I would go see the beginning of the universe. Also, before we continue on, thank you to the Golden Age Radio who donated over on the Streamlabs to say, you're saying Peanut Butter Falcon is better work from Shia LaBeouf than Even Stevens? Heresy. And I've never seen Even Stevens, so I wouldn't know. But yes, most likely. So it's a little bit more of a serious role, and so I appreciate it. And then the next 6 minutes for 3 over on the Streamlabs. Hey, Weebs and Polly, how are you, my dudes? Give this girl a Merry Christmas with a purchase from her merch store. Get sweet Weebs gear, yeah. Y'all. Polly has a Streamlabs, too. Help him get a new potato. Yes, because his au gratin, is it called?
Yes, my upgraded potato.
Exactly, yes. And we need to upgrade the potato to at least... What's better than that, Polly? Like in your terms.
That's a good question. What would be like a fancy potato? Like au gratin's a step up from regular potato. So what's peak potato?
Sweet potato?
Sweet potato fries with with a
No,
wonderful
no.
aioli for dipping.
Sweet potato puffs.
Sweet potato puffs. I've never even had them. Are they good?
Oh, they're so good. It's like eating a sweet potato cloud. It's really good.
Oh, a twice baked potato. Ryan Walters suggests. Yeah,
Hmm.
a twice
Anyway,
baked potato with sour cream and bacon bits. Yeah, that's.
that reminds me. Please check out the links in the description to the Discord and to Polly's Streamlabs. You will find them there, and you can peruse them at your leisure if you so feel inclined. Christmas is coming up, so we need to help Polly have a
Streamlabs.
merry, merry Christmas. Aight, aight.
I haven't actually had sweet potato fries. Talik mentioned them. Yeah, I haven't had them in so long. Mm.
Ooh, one last Streamlabs apparently from Golden Age Radio. 5 minutes to do anything at any point in history. A quickie with Rita Hayworth.
Oh, not a bad. Well, see, I never did specify whether or not you could interact with said history. Let's say you can. That's
Okay.
a solid answer,
Say that I
actually.
can.
A quickie with Rita Hayworth. That's not bad. I don't know, like, because that opens up possibilities. I could meet and woo Ava Gardner in her prime. I mean, holy shit. That's
Okay, but hang on. Assuming you only have 5 minutes, like you said, that means that you have to woo her and bed her in the same 5 minutes. And
I'd turn on all the
you may be a
charm because I know
quick
time's
lay.
limited.
Hang on, you may be a quick lay, but she's probably, a little bit more difficult to get into bed, presumably.
Nah, she'd take one look at me and that would be it. She'd forget about Frank Sinatra so fast. It would just. No, you're not buying that.
Mm-mm.
I would. I mean, there. I'm trying to think about the possibilities of like. Okay, yeah, I like to understand the origins of the universe, but that would be like another question. The limitation was supposed to be, as such, you could unravel a historical mystery. That was the intention of the part of the intention, I guess.
Holly, get used to disappointment. That's the way that life is. But if we're going off this question and I can't interact with the past, I'd say
Get used to disappointment. That's how life is. And a Merry Christmas, everyone. Jesus.
Okay. But if I can't interact with the past and I can change things, burning of the Library of Alexandria, I would stop it somehow.
That's not bad. Beat up whatever
Fuck you! Get out of here
whatever
with
Greek
your
with a torch.
torches. Exactly.
Or Roman with a torch.
Yeah, but the problem is I couldn't actually approximate exactly when it was that would have been a danger. So
I mean, just go back before it's burned and grab as many scrolls and codices as you could to take back with you.
yeah, because Egyptians are so on top of people, are okay with people just grabbing a whole bunch of their shit and taking and running off with it. See, that
Yeah.
doesn't really change much either. If I just grab it before it burns down, what happens to it? Do I just leave it in the middle of the street like it's not a big deal, or do I take it with me? Either way, I doubt it's going to make much of a difference if I leave it in the street or if I take it with me, because if I take it with me, the results are the same, but if I leave it in the street, who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
Like, who am I going to hand this off to? I've made no connections. I've only had 5 minutes to get to know people. Just be like, here, peasant child, take this. I know you can't read, and these are meaningless to you, but they're valuable, I promise.
Next 6 minutes over on the Streamlabs. Thank you very much. Here's a couple of bucks to upgrade your potato bro. Everyone, throw this dude some potato funding. Otter needs him a new rig. You're damn right. It's shit. It's bad, man.
Although, it's funny that you bring up time travel, Polly.
Look at
did.
those little hamster toes, Ocean Redux says.
Makes me
they're
feel
they're
like-
otter feet. It's
Have you been talking to Eve?
about what?
I don't know, just about me in general, at all, in the slightest, in passing.
The origin of the universe, your own birth, and now you think everyone's talking about you. My God.
Well, okay, no, I only wonder this. I only wonder this because Eve knows that I've been watching Doctor Who. We all know that Doctor Who is all about time, space travel, and all that nonsense.
Oh.
Mhm.
No, she did mention you, but it wasn't. We were talking about you, but it certainly wasn't complimentary.
So you were
And-
talking about me.
That's right, but it wasn't about Doctor Who. What was it in reference? I mean, actually, your name came up yesterday, or
Ooh,
no,
I'm flattered.
2 days ago when we were watching. We all got together in Discord and watched A Christmas Carol from 1999, starring Patrick Stewart as Ebenezer Scrooge. It was pretty good. It was a made-for-TV movie, so it lacked any kind of like hardcore production value, but it was Patrick Stewart, so it made up for it.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
Yeah. And then we were hanging out afterwards, and your name came up. I'm trying to remember what was said. I forget.
Oh, was it because I gave everyone in the Minions internet herpes?
No, it wasn't that either. What the fuck?
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is a joke, right? Every time it seems that I have like some sort of stalkery type person, anyone that I also associate with, whoever interacts with them, they also latch on to that person that I'm friends with, the stalker person. And so that's basically like giving someone internet herpes.
Oh, nice.
And it's happened entirely too many times for this to not be something. And so we ended up calling it that. And it was brought up within the last week at the very least. And so I thought that maybe that was it. But if not, then it's probably something else. Hopefully it's something else. Please be something else.
Yeah, it was not a big deal. Not a big deal. I forget. It wasn't. I'm just joking when I said it wasn't something complimentary. But okay, so like historical mysteries you want to unravel. So you know the library at Alexandria. That's a good one, but you don't know the time. I mean, there's options for me. I thought about it before this very question. Somebody asked me a variation of this question like a couple of years ago. When I was in my master's program, and they all had different things. And I'm a big person for the details of the Kennedy assassination. Yeah, I'd like to be in Dealey Plaza on November 22nd, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. And the question is, where particularly? Do you want to be on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository, or do you want to be on the grassy knoll? I figured the Texas School Book Depository. That would give you all the answers you really actually needed. If there was somebody shooting on the grassy knoll, you'd know it because you'd see Oswald not be able to achieve the shooting. If Oswald was there doing the shooting and he was the lone assassin, you'd pretty much have all the answers you need by seeing him fire 3 and only 3 shots. Do you know what I mean? It would be frustrating not be able to be at 4 places in the plaza at the same time to get all the conspiracies unraveled. But the most information can be gained by being like pretty much standing right behind him, watching him shoot. So, I mean, that's 5 minutes. I would only need like a minute.
Okay.
So that would be a good one. But I mean, to waste your one lone time travel to understand a conspiracy theory, that it feels a little frivolous, you know?
A little bit. And it's something that's probably okay, yes, it's a big deal for whatever reason. But in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter?
Well, the idea isn't so much that it matters in the sense that it's going to change everybody's life. It's more hold on, I'm just doing something here. Excuse me. It's more along the lines that it's a personal mystery to you, and here's an opportunity to solve it solidly in a way that's undeniable for you personally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get these 2 super chats before we continue. Thank you to Wabajack for the Streamlabs super chats. FMK, Emma Roberts, Stone Watson. Wait, Emma Roberts, Stone Watson, Alvin Simone Theodore. Oh, fuck, Mary Kill. Emma Roberts, Stone Watson. Are those 4 different people or 3 different people? Oh my god, I'm so confused. Anyway, the other one is from Ocean Redux. Thank you for the super chat. Look at those cute otter toes. LMAO. Holly. I got the super chats, Shio. Thank you. I was just waiting.
My feet are adorable, I'll have you know. Both in animated and real form.
I'll take your word for it. Not all of us are into feet here, Polly. Okay? Calm down.
I've been told... I like Golden Age Radio suggested solve the Epstein mystery. There you go. There's a solid 5 minutes you could be around for.
No, that took place over a period of 3 hours, I thought, because the guards fell asleep for that amount of time. And
true, but you'd be able to nail. I think you could pick an important 5 minutes within that, like 10 minutes after the cameras shut off, 10 minutes after the guards supposedly said they were asleep. I think you'd see the majority of what you wanted to see, in my opinion.
Oh, there are three Emmas and their last names. Okay, that makes more sense. See, you have to understand, kids. I had like three glasses of wine before I came on this show, because I was previously at my grandmother's birthday dinner, and as a result, um, yeah. So Emma Roberts, Emma Stone, and Emma Watson, and that's FMK. Okay. Oh, are we? Is that what we're playing? Is Emma
Yeah,
Stone.
we can do fuck Mary Kill. Just the Harry Channel. Thank you very much for the $5 tip. Uh, I'm pretty sure I already used my 5 minutes. I went back in time and told Themistocles not to make his last stand at Athens. The Battle of Salamis was incredibly important. Um, that reminds me what an underrated film, 300 Rise of an Empire, was. It bombed, and just what didn't you like?
The
Like
300.
it bombed hard, and it had like awesome ass Themistocles as the central character instead of Leonidas, and it's like, oh, it's not historically accurate. What? And the first one was. I mean, it's an idealized campfire war story told from it's the visual perspective of one person's war story. The first one is, I can't remember, the guy who was blinded in one eye, Leonidas's soldier.
Yeah.
It begins with him telling the story and ends with him telling the story. That's why it's so fantastical. And the 300 Rise of an Empire is Gorgo, Queen Gorgo of the Spartans, telling a story. It begins with her telling it and it ends with her telling it. That's why what's not to enjoy? It's a tall tale. It's a yarn.
Well, yeah,
I,
okay. I the concept of people from that specific region telling stories about the heroes from that region actually does strike me as a little bit more accurate in terms of that's exactly what they would have done back in the day. Idealized
right?
versions of stories to the rest of their people in an effort to make it seem less hopeless, to make it seem like it was not as much of a success as their story makes it out to be, right? In an effort to build up that prestige, because history is all about the prestige. Yes, the victors have a tendency to craft the narrative more so than the losers, but I mean, the losers have a tendency to craft their own narrative. I mean, if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have so many contradicting ideas, conspiracy theories, what have you, about the way that things have gone down in the past
Oh well,
nowadays.
no. And I mean, you make what I think is a really really sharp point. It's like people that are too used to the saying of history's written by the victors. Yeah, and the losers craft their own history,
They
and it's
do.
a righteous defeat. I mean, look at the Jews at um, their mountain fortress that the Romans um, sieged them at Masada. I mean
Yes,
that is a defeat, but they tell it as the most heroic defeat imaginable, where they actually remain undefeated in their conviction.
it's a complete martyrdom story, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, Assassin of the Great Masada. Like that's a great, like, I mean, and the Jews were completely destroyed and annihilated as a
You
nation
said.
state. It doesn't matter. They weren't killed off, and their story becomes one of righteous survival.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the losers craft their own story. I the the only people that where you can really tell make that point make sense would be like the Germanic tribes that Julius Caesar attacked in Gaul. Because what are their stories? I don't know. He killed them all.
Exactly. They didn't have written
or
words,
or
maybe oral
enslaved them and sold
tradition,
them
but
off,
still.
so there was no oral history. Like eradicated peoples don't have a history. People that survive, no, they've got a story and they tell their own. And the Greeks, I mean, you studied enough of the Greek world. The story of heroes, all of their mythology is based around heroic deeds and et cetera, et cetera. They become the idealized um, means of telling morals and so forth. It works really really well that Frank Miller thought to tell the tale in that way. I think. Uh,
Wait, if you could use the time machine for 5 minutes, why not look up the lotto numbers for that week? Because that's too easy. It's way too easy.
say that again. I didn't quite catch what you said there.
So Ryan Walters in the chat asked, wait, if you could use the time machine for 5 minutes, why not look up lotto numbers for the week? I mean, you can do that, but I would prefer something a little bit more meaningful than winning a lottery, you know?
Um,
Because you
I'm
have.
surprised that nobody before now gave that smart ass answer. You ever think if you only had three wishes from a genie, what would they be? And it's like, first wish would be for a million wishes.
No, that's too
I'm surprised that somebody did.
obvious.
I'd go back in time to the point where the guy invented the time machine and make him give me another 5 minutes.
You're funny.
Ari Prostate liked 300 and thinks Frank Miller's an excellent writer. This is clearly a man of refined taste here.
I'm a big fan of movies, even if they are historically inaccurate, to a point, all right? To a point. There is a point where I will have an absolute hissy fit. For instance, Balak and I just watched The Last Legion. Are you familiar with it?
No.
Um, so there are two ways that you can tell the story of King Arthur. Typically, either it's a swords and sandals type of narrative, or it's a complete medievalization of the story of King Arthur. The Last Legion is a Romanization, the very last legion of Roman Britons within the UK,
Okay.
fighting against fighting in opposition of some random enemy. Like, I was paying attention during the movie, but God, it was so bad. It was so bad that I just couldn't take it seriously. And as a result, a lot of it just kind of didn't register because it was so bad. It was an insult to my intelligence as someone who's into Arthurian legend, as well as who has been immersed into Roman history. Not nearly as much as Greek history, but still enough. It hurt my soul. And it's got so many great actors. Like half of Game of Thrones' cast is in that movie.
Have
Colin
a
Firth
Game of Thrones is cast in every movie.
well, because it's a movie that I'm pretty sure the British produced. But Colin Firth is in that movie, and he plays a general, a Roman general.
Nice. I love me some Colin Firth, man.
Oh God, and he's got a love interest that's like half of his age in the movie. Even though he looks super young in the movie, she is literally half his age, and they fall in love for no reason. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna adopt the next chosen King Arthur person thingy," and his name is not actually Arthur. It's a Romanized name or whatever. But it's oh God, it's such a bad
Arthurcus.
movie. No, not Criticus. Well, okay. So the story of King Arthur has gone through several different revisions over the years. The very original, like the original battle where we get our first glimpse of what could be Arthurian. You see where I'm getting like super speculative, like, oh, we don't actually know this for sure, but like we speculate that this is the case. The very first battle that is ever attributed to Arthur was actually attributed to another guy who was a Roman legionnaire. I think a legionnaire or whatever. And maybe some 200 years later, it was reattributed to Arthur somehow in a very convoluted way in the histories. And then I think the Dark Ages fell or whatever. Or the Romans pulled out of Britain. And then we get a whole bunch of history of just, we don't even know what happened. And then Arthur comes into play. Oh my God. History is so much fun, but it's so frustrating too because we don't know anything that happened. And getting from point A to this point B all the way down here 300 years later is such a difficult and uncertain thing. Arturius might be the exact name that you're talking about. The next 6 minutes. It sounds familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. We only went over Arthurian Roman Britain for a day in archaeology of ancient Britain. A day. We spent a day on it. And I'm super salty about it because it sounded very interesting, but no. Like 3 weeks on the Neolithic Britons and then a day on Arthurian Roman Britain.
Can you share my shared screen?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
No problem. So here's this delightful picture of this otter with a little baby otter. And I mean, like, how adorable is this? So Ryan Rawlings sent me this picture. and keeps insisting that this is the mother otter holding up the baby otter as a snack. I thoroughly disagree. I think this is just another example of how otters are adorable and do adorable things constantly.
Wait. Who said that they're holding the baby for a snack?
Ryan Rollins.
Wrong. False. That's not how this
Wrong.
works.
I just don't get that from this picture. I get adorableness.
I see cuddliness. Like, we hold human babies like that too.
Yeah, for non-primates, their hand movements are rather
Human?
human. Yeah, I was trying to move all the way back. Like, what? It's kind of on class, sort of family, genus, species. What's the hominids?
Homo?
Hominid,
yeah,
homos like
hominid.
us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hominids. Yeah. For non-hominids, they sure have some pretty hominid-like hand movements, is what I'm saying.
Well, I think that's because, hominids and maybe some other, like, fingered creatures probably also have a common ancestor well before they branched off, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, raccoons also. It's just, and raccoons are quite cute with their little bandit eyes and all. They ain't no otters, man.
No, of course not.
They're not nearly as playful, and they steal a lot more.
The otter is saying, look at the cuteness I made. Well, obviously, you have to appreciate the babies. Gotta appreciate the babies. That's actually really interesting, right? People always regard animals as not being, well, obviously not on the same intelligence level as humans, but not even coming to any comparison with humans. But if you look at animal and human comparative cognition studies, there are some aspects where animals can actually outperform humans. So for instance, there was a study that looked at a type of monkey. I want to say it was either a chimpanzee or not bonobo. Capuchin. It was a capuchin, I believe. Maybe. And their task was essentially to match or count upwards 1 to 10 or something on a screen that only flashed it for like half of a second, the actual numbers, and then replaced them with symbols. And so the monkeys produced results that were close to perfect, a lot quicker than any human I've ever witnessed in my entire life. A lot quicker than I could ever do without any practice, or with barely any practice in that regard. And it actually made me feel a little bit insignificant compared to this monkey, right? Who outperformed me in a counting task based off of their ability to see things. And the reason why is because specific species evolved based off of their actual natural habitats to do better in certain things. For instance, our ability to see things quickly is much less than creatures who have developed naturally in the wild, who have to acclimate to a climate where things happen at a lot faster pace because they're swinging through the trees, or they are being chased by predators, or they're looking for their next meal. We don't have to do that as much, obviously, because we're at the top of our food chain, but not all hominids are. You know what? I should find that video because it's really fascinating, actually. Let me see if I can.
Isn't it funny how we shouldn't really be at the top of our food chain, but we are?
It is really interesting, actually.
It's like just one of the many, many ways that humans violate taxonomic nomenclature and structures of nature as they're generally organized. It's like that goddamn mind power of ours. It changes everything, doesn't it?
And we're not even the best necessarily in every aspect of cognitive function, which is something that's a relatively new phenomenon for us. We're used to regarding ourselves as, better in all things.
But we actually are. I mean, you could trace it back to like the one thing that we can do that no other animal can do.
What?
Be aware that we exist.
Are you sure? Okay, so what defines being aware that you can exist?
Consciousness of the fact that you exist, that you can make yourself an object in the world. Animals display none of the characteristics of that.
Well, what
They
does it
display
mean?
consciousness. They're conscious of things, but they are not conscious of themselves. They're not aware of their own mortality, for example. Because as soon as you can make yourself an object in the world, you realize that you are in a world, and that there was a time the world existed without you, and there will be a time when it will exist without you again. You know what I mean? Thus, you're going to die, and then from that spreads the ability to metaphor, and from the ability to metaphor spreads linguistic ability, and from linguistic ability it spreads the ability to spread knowledge, and then holy fuck, everything branches from metaconsciousness. At least that's the theory of consciousness I buy into after too many years in philosophy as an undergrad.
Fair, fair. Okay, I'm trying to get this video to actually show up, but it's not for whatever reason. Hang on. Road. How dare they? Okay. Open link in new tab. I just want to show Polly this cool thing.
I want to see the thing.
Hang on. Ah! Let me see the really fun one.
Next 6 minutes says humans have David Bowie music. Humans win.
Is that a selling point? Is it always a selling point?
I've never encountered somebody who is such a fan of David Bowie. I've encountered people who like David Bowie a lot. Don't get me wrong, but to the point of what Six just said, no, that's a first.
Okay, we'll just see if this works.
Evolved Potato would like you to check your Streamlabs, weebs.
All right, give me 1 second. Okay, because it fucking blew my mind when I saw it for the first time. Let me tell you. Is it this one? No, it's not that one. That's the problem with for whatever reason. All right, Polly, if I share this video with you, do you think you could get it to work for you?
Possibly.
I'm going to share with you the actual study itself. And then it's movie S4, I think. Yeah, movie S4. Okay, and in the meantime, I will check my Streamlabs, I promise. Thank you to Evolved Potato for the Streamlabs. Baby is a hostage for food from the parents, which has been documented. Oh, well now. Interesting. Yeah, that's something that is entirely a possibility. Because animals eat other people's young, or other animals' young, don't they? Oof.
Sure do.
Oof. Rough. Rough. I'm not against humans. I just think that I don't think we are the end-all, be-all. Now that is interesting, right? Because my learning in comparative cognition class this semester had me rethinking my perception of the way that I regard humans. Because up until this semester, it had always been, like I said, that we were the best in all things. We were the pinnacle of evolution, you know. The only animals to recognize ourselves as ourselves, to self-identify, to be able to memorize whole-ass things. But it turns out that there are other animals that can recognize themselves in the mirror. Mirror self-recognition is, like, super important in terms of, or it's super unique in terms of it. So far to date, we've only recognized it as something that happens in humans, in terms of, in the studies, not maybe in terms of anecdotal evidence, but in terms of humans, we certainly recognize ourselves in the mirror. But for babies, human babies even, that takes a little bit of time to actually get to that point. Brain development takes a little bit of time to actually get a kid to acclimate with the fact that, hey, that's me in the mirror. But there are elephants that have displayed an ability to mirror self-recognize. And dolphins as well have, of course, probably not as well as humans, and the reason why this isn't as obvious in these animals is probably because the way that we test is very human oriented. Of course, also it's very human oriented in that humans self groom, and the way that we do this is using a mark test. So what we do is we like mark the animal with a splash of paint or whatever that doesn't easily come off, but they can't like feel it. The mirror, and then we wait for them to self-recognize and touch it and acknowledge it. And some animals do, some animals don't necessarily, and then they, even if they do, they stop paying attention to it. And the reason why is because they don't really groom in the way that humans do, or in the way that hominids technically do, which we do a lot of social grooming, individual, like pick through your hair, make sure it's all nice and neat, pick your zits or whatever. But elephants, dolphins certainly don't need to self-groom at all. So obviously it's probably not the best way to study mirror self-recognition in other species. You have to kind of attribute it to the specific species and what it is that they're more biological. So that's another thing that you have to think about too, is how are we studying these once thought to be explicitly human traits in other animals who have different biological evolutionary tendencies. Super fascinating stuff. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. Paul, you still there? I didn't bore you to death.
No, I'm still here.
Did you get the video?
Where did you send it to me?
Send it to your Twitter.
Twitter.
Yeah. What if I just shared my entire screen? That might work.
I mean, you have the
ability to
Uber StreamYards.
Okay. All right, Polly, don't worry about it. I will just share my entire screen, and it'll be
all right.
It'll be interesting, I promise. Okay. Share. Ah! What did I do? Oh.
Infinite regress matrix screen.
Okay.
Ah.
What the? Oh, wrong video. Yes. Okay, so this is the monkey that I was talking about, right? You see him? He gives like maybe a second's glance to look at the numbers, and then he counts upwards, 1 to 2 or whatever. But he only gets a second to actually look at the numbers, and then he does it perfectly. Nearly every time. Could you do this? Could you replicate this?
Could I replicate that behavior?
Could you do this to the level that he is?
Maybe, maybe not.
Are your eyes nearly that fast to be able to do something like this?
No, there are 100 explanations exist, I'm sure.
Isn't that amazing, though? Does that make you feel a little
like
bit
it is impressive. It doesn't display metacognition in my mind.
Well, no, I'm not talking about metacognition. Just simply the cognitive ability, not the cognitive ability, but the biological betterness.
Oh, the speed they can do it with? Fuck yeah, it's impressive. Oh, if that's what you're pointing out, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about the cognitive ability, because we actually had to like arduously walk that monkey through the ability to actually count upwards from 1 to 9. Like he had no idea what Arabic numerals were until we actually gave him the actual meaning behind them. Certainly, but
I mean, it's and I'm not trying to disagree with anything you said, because we agree on that point. On a separate issue that also involves that video that you just showed, I think some people would say, "Wow, he's understanding math." No, he's not.
Oh no, because
he's going through pattern recognition, which a lot of animals can do, and clearly that chimpanzee can do it a fuck of a lot better than a lot of other animals and a lot of other humans. But the point is, you could teach a human to do basic arithmetic that would elude that chimp, because like he can count up in the numbers. He's recognizing a pattern to follow. And what I mean by that is behavioralism as a theory of cognition can explain all all animal action except for human action. And not the entirety of human action, but behavioralism alone cannot explain the entirety of human activity. It's we do things that are original, that have no basis, that employ concepts animals never employ concepts. They employ behavioral learned activities, no matter how much it seems like your pet cat can conceptualize something. It cannot. It's a learned instinctual behavior. And instinct I think people underrate instinct. Like, Jesus Christ, look what that monkey's doing. It's fucking impressive. And that's based on extremely elaborate, structured instinct and its ability to remember stuff. And it clearly has a memory and so forth.
So,
and so again, I'm not arguing with anything you said as a separate point related to that video. I think some people might say, holy shit, chimps might be able to do math. No, because that would require the ability to abstract and conceptualize.
Not based off of that study, but there is another study where they did test to determine whether or not a chimpanzee could actually count. Sure, it's not necessarily as large as double digits, but they can conceptualize at least 0 to 4, which is, compared to us, not super significant, but is super significant compared to what we thought that they were capable of before. And I'll send that link to you, actually. It's a Dropbox link. I'll put it in the chat. But essentially, the study allowed them to count their food in a caged setting, and then assign a number to the amount of that certain specific amount of food that they were asked to count. And they were looking at it. So the actual abstract is chimpanzee trained to count food. And it was only one chimpanzee. So yes, obviously it's not very generalizable, but it's still impressive.
So what you're saying, it was some sort of mutant chimp.
Ah, yes, of course, 100%. No, but the chimpanzee was trained to count food and objects by using Arabic numbers, demonstrated the ability to sum arrays of 0 through to 4 food items placed in 2 of 3 possible sites. So essentially, the way that it was explained to me and the way that I read the study, right, was they had put oranges in separate containers around his enclosure, and he was to go from each separate, or she was supposed to go from each separate enclosure to the next, count the amount of oranges that were in each compartment, and then report back using Arabic numerals how many of those origins were in each of the things. And so, while certainly not impressive by human standards, it's very impressive by animal standards that we actually have this, especially considering they controlled for the clever Hans phenomenon, which is essentially that animals will use facial recognition, or not facial recognition, but facial cues to determine if they're doing something right based off of what their handlers are facializing, what they're seeing. So the clever Hans thing was, accounted for, and that there were no trainers in there to actually give away whether or not they were correct.
Wow, that went down the wrong tube. Sorry.
Are you okay?
Yes, I was drinking out of a straw there, and it really went down the wrong tube. I remember seeing a thing, a study. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. A study. When I was in 4th year, that a similar kind of thing, and you could fuck the monkeys up, chimps up real fast, like in what they were doing. Because the idea is, like, we want to see if they can remember a concept, and the particular thing they were going for was the number 2 versus 3. That there's 2 things in 2 items here, and we're going to identify it with Roman numerals of just 2 ticks. You could fuck them up so easy to the point where a theory of behavioralism can show how they're following a pattern. They're not going off of an extant concept in their quote unquote mind that is separate from the images that they're seeing. So whether it be 2 oranges, they were little rubber play toys that they were dealing with, not oranges, right? It's like, so bright red little like rubber dog toys kind of thing. And it's like, here's 2 of them and here's 3 of them, and then here's Roman numerals 2 and 3. Can you make the connection? Meaning, is it holding the concept from the time it leaves the room that has the little rubber playthings in it to it? It's in another room and now it has 2. Can it do it? And it's like, you could mess the monkey up over, again, I keep saying monkey. You can mess the chimp up over and over again just by slightly changing the shape of the Roman numerals or whatever. They're following a pattern. It's like, I get rewarded, the monkey is thinking, like, positive outcome when I do, when I grab onto these 2 things and then point at the number 2. I get rewarded, and not in the form of food. They would reward it with like, yay, monkey. Like, they'd be really happy with it. And the monkeys enjoy that, because who doesn't,
Yeah.
The same kind of way that when you give positive reinforcement to a dog when you're doing a canine training, it's they dig it, they dig the attention, and so there's the positive reinforcement. They know there's a positive outcome. If you were to slap the monkey every time that they would be like a negative reinforcement model, right? The same kind of thing would come. So the result was no, it's not actually holding a concept from one thing to another. That doesn't deny that they've got incredibly elaborate behaviors. They do, but not conceptual ones. Which was it's kind of disappointing because it for some people because it leaves us alone on the planet, and for other people it's freeing because we're unique and awesome. I don't know. Both of them are emotional takes, honestly. It's just, but
when you say conceptual, are you being super specific about what you mean by that, or are you just being incredibly broad? Because concept ability to understand a concept can be super broad, right?
Right.
Like, what do you mean when you say
a concept as they defined it extremely specifically for the purpose of the test, and you absolutely need to operationalize it, so you're not to remove ambiguities and such. And I would have to look up what it was. I would be taking a guess at something that happened. As a study that we had to analyze, 5 years ago at this point. It's the notion of an abstraction devoid from any object in the world, that it exists entirely as a mental construct. That was the main point of it. Mm-hmm. So there's the concept exists devoid of. We know what the number 7 is, and we as humans, we can apply the number 7 to anywhere because you've studied Plato, right? It exists in, quote, the world of forms.
Actually,
for us.
No, I didn't.
Oh, well, shit,
Weebs.
That's a major gap in your education.
Is it, though? Is it really? Is it me learning about how other people have thought about things in the past is a gap in my education?
Yes.
Is it, though? Because I thought that the point of an education was to tell you how to think critically, not how to think about how other people have thought critically.
Well, the reason why I would say it is this, the idea of Western thought and Western philosophy and every field of study, with the exceptions of what? I'm open to a small number of them. I'm not trying to be definitive and listen to me while I tell you how the world works. Everything comes out of philosophy with the exception of what? Theology, music, a number of other things. Like I said, I'm not trying to come up with a definitive list, but there's PhD is what? It's a doctorate of philosophy. Everything branched off out of philosophy, love of knowledge, which all started for the Western world in Greece, in Athens largely. And so it is if you want to have only 1 or 2 books that summarize it all, the Socratic Dialogues from Plato and Descartes' Meditations. You can leave everything else as a footnote to those 2 works, everything else. And that's the whole of Western philosophy in 2 books. So is it important to read them? 2 books that contain the whole of Western thought, that everything else is a branch off of that, largely? Yeah, I would say that's, that doesn't mean you need to. It's no, I'd rather study music or focus on relations. I'm not saying everybody needs to study these. I'm not saying that. But if you have an interest, if that idea interests you, yeah, absolutely read Plato. It's rewarding.
Ocean Redux. No Descartes. Yeah,
no Descartes.
we studied a little bit of Descartes, René Descartes, right? And he was the guy who he's the guy that thought about this thing. He came up with dualism, right? The idea that the mind and the body were, or the spirit and the body were 2 separate things, or at least that. Animals.
There was a thing called the mind that was unextended matter. So it's non-corporeal, can neither be temporally nor spatially located. Let's talk about something else. I'm feeling like a condescending fucking prick, and it's Christmas, and let's talk about fun things.
It's not Christmas yet. We were having such a great time talking about animal cognition.
Okay, I think we were just pissing Chad off, personally. I don't have any facts to prove that, but that's my feeling.
Apparently we're cutting into the minions, and we're cutting into Eve, and I feel so bad about that. I'm sorry, guys.
You know what? I've done some thinking about that.
Have you've done some thinking?
I have.
You have some thoughts?
Nothing on René Descartes' level of sitting there and analyzing a piece of paraffin wax and understanding the nature of existence through it. But he did that, by the way.
Of course. Didn't he
Well, he did.
also conceive of like the X and Y graphs that it is that we understand? Like, oh, this point
Damn right.
is with this point. Yeah, I
Did
have him to thank
that?
for linear algebra.
Do you know?
I did
It's a
know
great.
that.
It's true because it comes from him.
It was a spider on his ceiling.
A fly.
Oh, a fly.
Yeah, but did it laying in bed where he claimed he did all of his best thinking. Weebs, feel free to be lazy. That's
I'll
what
never
that was
get
my
out of bed
takeaway.
again.
I will lay in bed and just think. It doesn't matter if it's profound because it could be.
That's all that matters.
So lay in bed, enjoy your time. It's it's totally awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the fly, and he realized that for this, we're talking about the Cartesian coordinates, the idea of X and Y. If you ever played Battleship, B3, you ever looked at a XLS spreadsheet, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Linear
Somebody had to come up with
algebra,
that, and that was Descartes. And that's the Cartesian coordinates are named after him. The idea of an X, Y, and Z axis. You can plot anything in three-dimensional space because he's looking in the corner of his room and sees a fly flying around. And he's like, hey, if I measure along on the side of the wall, X, Y, and Z, I can plot that fly in 3 dimensions. And that was a simple thought, but a fantastically important one, because up until then they were hand drawing maps. That sounds so stupid, but then again, everything sounds simple after somebody tells you how it works, right?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, elegant solutions are the best, and they're usually pretty simple, and people go, well, duh, who wouldn't have figured that? Millions of people before one guy did,
Mm-hmm. Although I do owe everyone an explanation for why it is that we're so late in our broadcasting. Nana Jones had her birthday dinner this evening, and you know how the Jones family be. We take our partying very seriously. So we had to have like the 3-course meal that included appetizers, salads, and the soups and the salads are kind of the same thing, because either you get the soup or you get the salad, and then of course your entree, and then the bonus course, which is dessert. You always have to have dessert, and you always have to have your coffee. And of course, we had to delay the entree arrival because my cousin was working, so obviously, we couldn't have dinner without her being present, and then people had to send things back because they weren't quite up to par the way that they wanted them to. I mean, if you're going to spend that much money on a steak, you got to get it the right firmness, right, kids? Of course. And then dessert. And then my family just takes forever to actually eat, say hello, say goodbye, and socialize with each other. We actually got on the topic of, near the end of the meal, we talked about prenups.
Really?
Which is a really weird topic of conversation to come to, especially when none of us were sitting at the table with our significant other, except for my aunt and my uncle, and my dad and his girlfriend.
So everyone could be like super honest?
Oh, yeah. Because it's just me, my cousins, and my grandmother, and then, the 2 adults that are nowhere near in that, conversation topic. And it was me against everyone else. Except for my brother, who eventually came over to my side, which is that you should sign a prenup.
You should sign a prenup, you think?
You should sign a prenup. And my reasoning for this, all right, is because if you sign a prenup, then you don't have that hanging over your head if the marriage falls into disarray at some point, right? So, say at some point the marriage kind of falls apart a little bit, and you're thinking of what to do next, how to proceed from here. Well, turns out that you didn't sign a prenup, and so as a result, you're thinking more about, the financial situation that you have after the relationship is over, more than you're thinking about actually whether or not it's worth saving the relationship. And so my thinking is, if you want to be in the relationship because you want to be in the relationship, then be in the relationship. But if you want to be in the relationship because you want to save yourself from having to give up half your shit, then it's not worth it.
So what you're saying is that everything was much more simple when women couldn't own things.
No, that's not what I'm saying. The other
that seemed to be what you were getting at.
The other thing is too, right? If you want to be in a relationship with somebody, in my perspective, right? If you want to be in a relationship with somebody, and even if you guys the argument came out if neither of you have any shit, then it doesn't matter if you sign a prenup, right? Okay, so if neither of you have anything to lose in the divorce, and you don't plan on getting a divorce, then signing a prenup should just be like a non-issue, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because the only
The whole,
issue,
like, I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't even necessarily disagree with it at all. It's just, I don't know. I watched the reason why I'm off on the subject of marriage, like right now, is I watched the Ben Shapiro Sunday special, and he was talking to, of all people, Kirk Cameron. Have you ever seen one of these Sunday specials Shapiro does? You know what I'm
I
talking about?
thought
No.
Shapiro didn't do work on Sunday. Oh wait, no, that's not the Sabbath. The Sabbath is Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know, because I'm not a patron of his, or no, a Daily Wire subscriber. It would be. I'm not a subscriber to Daily Wire. I just watch the videos from time to time. The Sunday specials are long form interviews that he does with a whole wide array of different people, and people that he's famously clashed with in the past. So that kind of like Piers Morgan is one of them. Sam Harris, is a arrogant, condescending, Trump hating atheist. It's interesting to see him sit down with Ben Shapiro and have this civilized discussion, whatever. And I'm thinking, Kirk Cameron, of all people, an evangelical Christian, B movie producer kind of guy, what the hell are they going to talk about? What was interesting is that, like, he's kind of turned into like this sort of like life coach guy. And they're talking about marriage in any case. Let me get to the fucking point. They're talking about marriage, and their discussions about marriage, I'm not going to lie, kind of depressed me, because Shapiro tells this story. I met my wife, right? And the first time I told her I loved her, it was a month before she said, "I love you" back to me. And that was the longest fucking month of my life. I still remember it clearly. Because I'm saying it to her throughout that month, not like every second, but I'm saying it, and I'm getting responses like, that's nice, that's sweet. Oh, how adorable of you to say that. Like that's not what you want to hear, right? And it's like, it was rough. But it's when she and I understand that she had to think about it. We've talked about it since. Like, she wanted to think it over. Do I actually love this guy, etc. And when I did say it back to her, when she did say it back to me, it was in very quick order that I said that he proposed marriage. Then we should get married. What are we waiting for then? And it was like just like that. Kirk Cameron, same thing. Right? Now, I get it. These are deeply devout religious people, both of them. And they're both meeting people inside of their Christian and Jewish communities, respectively. But Kirk Cameron makes this interesting point. So the guy's been married 29 years, he said, right? And he's like, imagine if I had lost that, if I hadn't locked it down, if I hadn't put a ring on it, so to speak. I'm putting those words in his mouth. He didn't say that. It's kind of an interesting thought where it's, I don't know. I find the discussion of, I don't want to be part of a certainly not an evangelical community or an Orthodox Jewish community or any strictly straight-laced religious devout community. I don't want to do that. But the iffiness of marriage in the way that you were talking about it depresses me in a big fucking way. I mean, the way you described it, it's like you don't want money coming up and you don't want this coming up. And it's like, God, man, we all talk. It seems like we all talk and think about marriage as this fucking house of cards built upon sand with which will be hit by the fucking incoming tide within minutes. You know what I mean? Like it could fly apart at any moment. And it's like these people from this religious community, there's something to be envied, I think, about the way that they don't see marriage that way. It's something much more solid and something that happens. I don't know.
My perception of how relationships are supposed to go down is very colored by what it is that I witnessed in my childhood from the adults in my life. Coming from a family with not one, not two, but three failed marriages, I know what doesn't work, or I've seen what doesn't work. Certainly the biggest issue that couples have oftentimes is a lack of communication between each party. The other thing is a lack of equal contribution on both parties' part. And I'm not just talking about financially, of course. I'm talking about at home. Like if he's doing the lawn every week, she definitely has to be doing something to, equal that input into the lives that you're sharing together. Because a relationship is it's a partnership, not a dependency. You are not depending on that person for anything except for, happiness and to help you reproduce a child or produce a child or whatever, or children. But I see it as more of a, I bring to the table. What do you have to offer our relationship in that respect? It's not so much of a, please take care of me, make sure that I'm, all good and I have all of the things that I could possibly need, and I dote on you when I come home and whatever. And that might work for some people, but it's not going to work for me, because I'm not going to be able to sit there and just accept this nonsense. It's got to be a partnership. It's got to be something where I am contributing just as equally as the guy. And in that way, I feel like it's a little bit more solid than, just what it is that people perceive marriage as nowadays, where it's just a relationship. It's not just a romance. It's a partnership. It's a business relationship, right? It's on all levels something that you have to collaborate with this person specifically on, and you have to be open about everything, completely honest. And in some places it has to be impersonal too, because you have to be able to tell this person, hey, I'm gonna call you on your bullshit, you're not pulling your weight, shape up, or else we're gonna have words. You have to be able to feel confident enough to say to that person, hey, something's not working, we have to work this out. And they have to be mature enough to actually accept that criticism in stride and improve upon that with you, or work towards improving it with you, or coming to some different consensus on how to collaborate in this effort. It's a lot of work. And, it's not always a bundle of roses, and it's not always, everything that you wanted it. But to romanticize it as this fantastical, perfect, contrived, nonsensical thing is ridiculous.
Okay, really quick, just a whole bunch of rapid fire things in chat. Faithless says marriage is a lose-lose proposal for men. Yeah, you know what? I understand what you're saying. Like that, and I'm not even trying to be condescending of what you said with the whole MGTOW thing, but as if MGTOW don't have interesting points when it comes to it is. It's not a lose-lose proposal in the Western world, like America specifically, I'm thinking of when it comes to divorce in the courts and the way that it turns out. It is a bad situation, and it's simply not the same situation for women in terms of what risk is it that they're taking. Faith also says Kirk Cameron is a moron. I could not bring myself to watch it. Banana Boy. Yeah, that Banana Boy shit was that banana video was fucking ridiculous. Everyone knows it. I have to believe he's embarrassed by it too. The banana was crafted for our hands alone. No, it wasn't. That why would you, if you want to make an argument for God's existence, that's the best you could do. You suck. Jedi Ghostbear says they're all pre-taped. Yeah, I started to talk about that, but I've been drinking, so I ended up not finishing it off. Oh, yeah, sorry. The Sunday specials air on Sunday, but they're pre-taped. He's not working on the Sabbath. But if you are a Daily Wire subscriber, you can see them like 2 days early because they are pre-taped. And that's why I brought up the subscriber thing, and I just fucking went off on it. Jedi Ghost Bear says, I knew I wanted to marry my wife 7 months after we started dating. Yeah, Ben Shapiro said 6. So and they did get married like within the first year, as did Cameron. I don't bring them up as models of ways to act. It just makes me think about the marriage thing. And when I think about Pop-Tart and Her Man, and I think about Monkey and Lady Monkey, that is the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know, that it makes a big impression on me, a much bigger impression than 1,000,000,001 failed Hollywood marriages that last 6 weeks. Looking at you, Scarlett Johansson, like you know what I mean, like just as the worst far gone example of cheap marriages that don't seem to mean very much, that are predicated largely on prenups. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure Scarlett Johansson's prenup for her man that she's going to marry is probably as thick as a fucking phone book in terms of what you get, what you don't get, and all this other shit, because she's got millions and she's a businesswoman and has assets to protect. And it's like, what the fuck are you? I mean, this is your what, fourth, third marriage, whatever the fuck it is. And none of them lasted very long at all. I mean, after you banged every fucking producer in Hollywood to get the fucking roles and create a career, I've heard. So in any case, there's the quick fire things on that. And I wanted to end it on that idea that you're saying that, like, yes, it's a lot of work in these other things. I hear you. I think it is. But when I think about the people like my parents and Monkey and Lady Monkey, to reference people that we both know, and Pop Tart and Herman in terms of people we both know, like that kind of thing. I don't know. That makes a strong impression on me. And then I see people online that are like, I'm only going to marry him, the Instagram style of marriage as an accessory in terms of a fashion accessory.
I'm back.
I don't want to clash with him in the same way they don't want their shoes to clash with their dress. They're thinking about, how does this man fit into their lifestyle? Big fucking shocker that they view divorce as a ready-made option to run to, and you wonder where MGTOW gets its gestation from.
It's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of my life plays out.
I mean, because I'll put the question to you, because they were both asking that, Kirk Cameron and Ben Shapiro. I only saw this like less than 24 hours ago. That's why I was thinking about it. And you were talking about prenups, and they brought up prenups where it's like, it really shouldn't be that thing. Well, they're talking a bunch of idealized bullshit, and two people that are in religious communities and have been together for a long time and conceivably aren't going to be divorcing ever. So it's kind of a biased perspective. Mm-hmm. But it was an extreme end of the spectrum on marriage versus Instagram presentations of celebrity marriages, which would be the extreme other end.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Somewhere in the middle, as in boyfriend and I have been high school sweethearts since at least junior year of high school. So we've been.
So what are you waiting for? They both asked. They said if you found the person you want to be with, what are you waiting for?
Well,
and they were asking like generally, but I mean, what are you waiting for then?
We're not ready. I'm still in college. He's trying to get out of his parents' basement because he went through a string of bad luck in terms of losing his job and a whole bunch of other nonsense that I won't go into. Fair enough. In order for us to actually partner up in that respect, to actually have a wedding, to get engaged, like that takes, at least from my family's perspective, a lot of time, a lot of planning, and a lot of money, and we don't have that at the moment. And so it makes no sense to actually get married if we're not ready in that sense. Like, I'd like to graduate first before it is that I even start to begin to think about marriage. Because the moment that I do start thinking about marriage, it becomes a big hullabaloo.
Hey, remember this?
Big hullabaloo.
Chat and everyone else, and you too, weebs. People that are into kind of like traditional marriage, like in the sense of married and that it's a long-term thing and stay together. Well, part of the tradition also is, where's my dowry at? And y'all's is paying for the wedding. Okay, that's it. Good. Insist on that part, guys. Where's my dowry at?
I'll probably end up paying for my own wedding, which is another reason why it'll take a few years to actually get to that point. But first, like...
And you said your family, like the way, like it's gonna be a big wedding because that's just how it's done. Is that
if you met a Polish person in the Midwest, chances are they're probably related to me, Polly. So, yeah, it is a big family. And
thus accordingly, like you've always known it's going to be a big wedding because of that. So expense is that? I'm just trying to get what you mean. Is that
kind of not so much in terms of expense, but in terms of coordinating with people. And also, I'm going to have to fend off a lot of people with a lot of opinions about how it is that our big party is going to be. The last big wedding that we had, it took the couple 11 years to actually get engaged.
Oof, okay.
Yeah. And then maybe a year to actually get married after that fact. But, still 11 years to get engaged. Like, I knew the bride for a whole 11 years of my life, from like the age of 5 all the way up until the point that they got married, before they actually got married. And I don't know, my family is not one that necessarily just jumps into things immediately. We take our time. We're very slow. We're very meticulous. We plan incessantly.
Okay, I got a question. You hear this? Who is it that said it in chat? Mm, Faithless. Duo Satsu wedding, City Hall, and save your money. So, City Hall, that's what made me think of this. You hear a lot of people say that government needs to get out of marriage, out of the business of marriage. Agree? Disagree? Why? Why not?
Um, well, that depends on how you regard marriage. Is it specifically a religious thing, or is it just a state recognized union of two people? Um,
Hey, Jacob Jet. Hey, Chaos Eve. Well,
Personally, I'm less religiously inclined, and therefore the government involvement, the recognition that I and this person are in a union, is more important to me. Although for a boyfriend, it's probably a little bit different because he's Greek Orthodox.
Weebo,
What?
did so let's just take a look at what you just said there. You replaced God with the state.
Okay, no, okay. The only reason why. Okay, you have to understand, right? The way that I understand it is you get married to somebody, and it will be recognized by the state, but it's also more of a religious thing. But the state part is important because state reasons, right? You get to write your significant other in on your taxes as your dependent or whatever. You know, you get to share insurance. You get to visit them in the hospital. So it is important that in that regard that you're recognized by the state. I could
And
be happy.
those things are there,
Yes.
and they joint income tax terms do not save you as much money as people would think.
But still, it's a thing to think
But
about.
still, it's a thing. And visitation rights always come up. They came up in civil unions, gay marriage versus traditional definition of marriage. I mean, those are I hear you. Those are the traditional talking points or perennial talking points that are brought up whenever the discussion happens. So it's like the idea of a civil union of all things, in all things, where it's like marriage outside of that. It's like, I don't know. I think there's some arguments to be made for government to get the fuck out of. We're not really married until the state recognizes us as being married. And I think that's a huge problem. I would rather see two people make a commitment between each other and in front of all of their friends and family and it's not religiously, just make a vow or oath. Let's say they're not religious people. To me, that has more value than the state because I don't know. The state is intruded in everyone's lives in a very big way. And I think it's a very American perspective to say government shouldn't be the one. It was kind of weird there, Weebs. You almost did replace God with the state as like it becomes the authority. Well, so unless, of course, you're comfortable with just the civil union thing across the board where it's just about taxes and whatever. Would you not feel married if you didn't sign a marriage license?
Not necessarily. For me, the big fancy traditional wedding with the religious ceremonies and the signing of the paper doesn't necessarily make it feel like I'm any more with my boyfriend than if it weren't to happen. For me, the big adjustment won't be so much us getting married, but like us actually starting the rest of our lives as a unit instead of separately, because we're in a long distance relationship right now. So it doesn't quite feel like we're like necessarily in sync a team the way that you see traditional couples as. So that would certainly be more impactful than either of the other two that we specified in terms of marriage or a civil union or whatever. But like where I'm coming from regarding the government, right, is unless hospitals stop recognizing that as the impetus for like making health decisions for your significant other in the hospital and visiting them and stuff, it kind of does matter, Polly. It really does matter.
No, I agree that it does. Like, let's say the hospitals do recognize it differently. Okay, you made a point like we would feel more together. Okay, one, I've done the long distance thing, and it is different. And I definitely hear what you're saying. It would be more impactful to be living together in the same space, not doing the long distance thing. The impact of it would be huge. And I mean, I didn't have as much problem with it as my ex-girlfriend did, revealed herself to be a miserable, distant, vapid bitch who pretended to be more deep than she actually was. But anyway,
you got some resentment there, Polly?
No, it's just clarity of vision. It's different.
Sure, okay. I feel like there's a little bit of bias here. Was it not a good break?
I'm just saying.
Continue.
Human beings being cultural animals, which we absolutely are, ceremony and ritual, however broadly defined, are very important to us. I remember a scene from The Sopranos that kind of sticks out in my mind. I was reminded of it when you said this right now. This guy who has a girlfriend is talking to this girl he just met, and they're doing the flirtatious thing. Now, this guy's attached in a committed relationship, and he's living with his girlfriend, and he just meets this hot new Latina girl. He's sitting there talking to her, and it's like, so are you and your girlfriend close? And it's like, whatever. And it's like, well, we're married together, or we're living together. That's pretty much like married. And she said, no, it's not. And she said it real solidly with conviction. And he goes, what do you mean? She goes, believe me, that ring, it has some kind of strange power. When you're just living with somebody, you can pack up your shit and leave, and you know it in the back of your mind. When you've been married and you've gone through that ceremony, it's different. And it's like, yeah, I think that the ceremony and the ritual of it, because we are creatures, does have a big impact. I think he's right. When you're living with someone, it's different than picking up and leaving. What does that little metal band around your finger got to do with anything? Like she said, it has a strange power, and it's in our minds, but it's there. It's real.
Well, I think it's more of a symbolic power than anything. Like, compared to giving someone a house key and letting them just waltz into your house, it's a lot more significant, not just symbolically, but actually, than just putting a ring on some bitch's finger because you want to tie the knot. Like, inviting someone, letting someone have access to your personal space at all times, or even just moving in with each other. A lot more significant, a lot more of a difference than.
Now, that's a very interesting point, the way you put that. I like that. That's a good retort to that position that she was making, right? It's like you're allowing someone, they could rob you fucking blind. Like, what a huge display of, no, seriously, what a huge display of trust and faith and whatever the fuck, right? That giving them a key to your house. But then again, I don't know. I think a lot of people would kind of recognize I've never been married. So and that was a fictional portrayal, but it kind of struck me as, yep, that seems right, what she was just saying there.
Well, it's also left over from the idea that marriage comes with the notion that you are about to enter into just a complete mesh with this person. Everything about your life that's personal becomes their also personal life. Everything about their life that is personal becomes your personal life. All your possessions become one. And for a long time it was get married, move in with each other, and now everything that you own is everything that they own, and it's all like one big mesh. Nowadays, however, people move in with each other and before they get married, and so it's less of a big deal, I think. Or maybe it's just a notion that's been left over from years and years and years and years of this being the case. Marriage being the end of one part of your life and the beginning of your next with this specific person. Trusting them with all your shit, all your free time, all your personal shit, and all that jazz.
Well, okay. Like, okay, for chat stuff. Sharp chat. I mean, they've always got great comments. It's fucking awesome. So that's why I end up like, I don't want to leave any of these sharp comments alone. So I was like, rapid fire again. Faithless asked, while the otter was away, did the kitty play? I like the way you said that. But no, what I meant by that was she said she was fine with the long distance thing. I had concerns about it. I tried to live up to the long distance thing. In the end, the long distance thing ended up being a huge problem for her, even though she was the one that presented it as being the thing we should do. That's what I was referencing. She might have cheated on me. I would be really surprised as fuck if she had. I mean, do you ever really know? No, I guess not. But I would be surprised if no, I was talking about the long distance thing was her idea originally. I had my misgivings. I threw myself into it wholly, and then it ended up being the big fucking problem for her. It ultimately wasn't what led us to break up, but it certainly didn't fucking help. Yep. Fucking thought changing thought. I just hate that you sold me a false bill of goods, woman, is what it comes down to.
Well, you don't
so why did I even
what
waste my fucking time with this shit then? I bought into something that you were selling.
Well, how many people get involved in long distance relationships every day, Polly, honestly? So maybe people overestimate their ability to cope with things that are like that, especially if they've never had any inclination to ever start one before or get involved in one previously. Plus, you also have to have an end goal. and like an actual viable plan, maybe have dated for a little bit before you enter into a long distance. There are a lot of factors that play into this. All right, it's worked out for me. I'm just saying. It depends on the person, depends on the relationship.
Brian Walters says she got confused when you said you were poly.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's good. That's good. Um, Eve, who has been married and divorced, and I'm not, out in Eve or doxing Eve. She's talked about that before. She says it does have a psychological significance, meaning the marriage. Doesn't have to be a wedding, in my opinion, but some kind of ritual or ceremony makes a difference. And it's like, again, I've never been married, but that seems right. And then Eve is kind of backing that up. I have lived, cohabitated, as the law says. And yeah, I think that I can't do a direct comparison because I've never been married, but and then also cohabitated. So, but I do know that feeling is there. You can pack up your shit and leave, or bitch, get out, whatever the situation is.
Well, you can do that when you're married too, apparently, according to my mother. I never stopped her.
Oh, is that why you have?
Of a few feelings of resentment that might be coloring my perception of how marriage is supposed to work, Polly. All right?
And I think Lion Patriot has a really solid point here. He says, if you try to stay true to your word, it has power, which is what Angela said.
Certainly.
Like further up, that I gave an oath were her words, and I tried to stay true to it, even though he was a psychologically abusive prick. And it's like, yeah, Lion Patriot's right. Like, I mean, if somebody's showing up to, whether it's at an altar or during a civil ceremony or something like that, and they're giving a vow, but it's completely like, it's like Scarlett Johansson's vow. Don't get me wrong, I still think she's hot as hell, but like, yo, lady, you're kind of flaky. But she's in Hollywood. What do you expect? They're all flaky, it seems. If somebody's word isn't worth very much, then to them, I mean, it's like your word is temporary on an ongoing basis. It's like, I give my word to be committed to this until I don't feel like being committed to this. Wait, that's meaningless.
Yeah. Because it is a commitment. Marriage, I will attest to this. It is vowing to someone to be there for forever until you all croak at some
Assassins
point.
of the... Sorry, Weebs, you were saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying it's a commitment that you enter into until either of you croak.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry, how do you say this? Enzaker. I've been common law married twice. That's what the closest thing to, quote, marriage I have any desire to be. Hey, I am not trying to fucking pitch marriage here. I'm just saying these ideas have struck a chord with me and I'm thinking about them. And it's like, really, is marriage and the commitment and the thing and the basis of so many civilizations, not just America, but going back throughout Western history, that are based upon like as the fundamental building block of society? Have they really become so meaningless? You know what I mean? When somebody says, I don't ever want to be married, I can't blame you. It's not like you don't have good arguments or good reasons to think so.
I mean, to each
then
his
it's
own.
Certainly not best for everybody, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about these things.
Personally, I've always just assumed that would be the logical next step in our relationship. And then, have kids, have grandkids, retire, grow old together, It was never anything more than just the next step necessarily for me. Once I commit myself to a person, it's just kind of like, all right, we're ducks now. Mate for life. We're the lobsters to each other. Because lobsters and ducks, they mate for life.
Yeah. Okay. Pete says, I had my first long distance relationship with Reject. It was great, but it was hard. Even after I went to the States to see her, not sure if I would do that again. Hey, people talk about long distance relationships never work to the point where it's like a trope statement. I don't agree with that. Mine didn't work, and I still don't agree with the idea that they never work. I would do it again. That's bullshit. Don't let people define how. I don't think anyone should let people define how a relationship would work like that. Like if it works for you and it's actually working and it's great and you're putting forth an effort to make it work, and you're getting something out of it. It fills both of you up. You feel a partnership, etc. All those things. You know when it's working, when it's not.
Yeah.
There's a real good sense of that, even if it is hard. And the other, if it's hard for both of you and both of you are putting into it, yeah, man, dude. Fuck people who say don't do a long distance thing. As long as there's some plan to be together in the future, etc. Man,
exactly. And
don't listen to that bullshit that people say. And like mine failed, and I'm still saying that. So
you have to agree to work towards a specific goal with a goal in mind. Like
yeah,
you can't just be we're gonna enjoy each other's company and that's the end of it. Like no, you have to work towards something. Otherwise, it's a nothing burger. I want to address Seal 77. Wow, and people wonder why I'm single and never gotten married. Sheesh. And Weebo is talking that marriage is a logical thing. The only thing logical about marriage is procreation of the species. I mean, that's part of it, certainly, but the legal side of marriage, it makes sense in the current state of affairs regarding the way that our culture works. I mean, there are things that married couples can take advantage of that non-married couples can't. I mean, not a whole bunch, but certainly the important one. Like, I'd like to be able to transfer the ability for my boyfriend to make health decisions for me to him rather than have it be my dad for the rest of my life. Because my dad's not going to be around for forever. And then who's it going to be, right?
God, you have so much internalized misogyny and adherence to the patriarchy. You want to transfer decisions for your life from one man to another?
Okay, if I'm in a coma...
It was sarcasm. You don't need to argue this. It was sarcasm. Okay. It was joke.
If I'm at death's door, but I can't speak for myself. I need someone to speak for me.
No, I hear you. Okay, Far, from Australia, Far Zeus me. We're watching 1970s commercials because they're fucking hilarious. It's like a miniature form of quasi time travel.
Mm-hmm.
And commercials back then had a distinct lack of polish to them, which gives them a fuck ton of charm. Like, so anyway, we're watching them, and I can't even remember where I'm going with this. Where was I going with that? There was one specific commercial, and I was like, why? I wanted to explain why the hell I was watching a 1970s commercial when that.
We were talking about marriage and whether or not I was gonna die.
Oh, thank you. Now I remember. Okay. You've had a chance to sober up, and I've had a chance to drink up.
This is a very
6
interesting
ounces
dynamic
deep at this point. And that's not enough to have me wavering when I walk, but stray errant thoughts. Oh yeah. Anyway, the decisions for you. I decided for fun, every single commercial that comes on, I'm going to provide a smart ass SJW problematic take with it. I don't know why I decided to do this, but after 10 times of me doing it, she's like, stop, Polly, stop. There wasn't one that it wasn't on the tip of my tongue with complete ease to do. That's how predictable these fucking people are. If you spend any time on the internet, you can do it. It was a car commercial for tires. It was like, buy whatever the fuck Firestone radial tires. Whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. Buy tires, so don't worry about the miles per gallon of fossil fuels boomers that you're polluting the atmosphere with, and you don't give a fuck. Blah 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 blah. And every single statement ended with, "This commercial is very problematic." And then it went to another one, and it was about I made like half of them about the patriarchy, because you can make everything about the patriarchy if you want to. Doesn't that tell you something? That you can criticize literally everything with ease? With this worldview, yeah, it's kind of like the SJW worldview is just one giant bitch fest.
Yeah, it is. It genuinely is, because you can bitch about anything in this current day and age, and it has to do with social justice-y nonsense. I mean, you can. It's not necessarily going to work, but you can. It's unfortunate, but you can.
Assassin the Gray has a very solid point here. Dump a body together. That will make you committed. It's true.
True. Yes. Okay. Yeah. We'll be committed to each other on a whole different level. But I mean, regarding like the legality of choices that you can make for somebody, it's so important to have that be a thing. It is.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Like, to be able to trust one single person on this entire planet with the ability to make legal decisions in your stead for you about not just your life but your finances and whatever. That's heavy, man.
It is. You're not wrong.
Bad Polly. Polly, what did you do?
I don't know. It's an ongoing thing. I just.
Did my phone die? What's going on here? It's too late for people to be messaging with me.
I'm just saying. Once you've dug a shallow grave out in the woods you've never been to before and dumped lime on a freshly murdered body, there's a spiritual connection that results.
Yes, I can agree with that. There are certain instances in life where you form a spiritual connection with another person. For instance, not just burying a body, but perhaps also nursing a person who's drank themselves half to death's door back to life to make sure they don't vomit in their sleep and kill themselves by choking on it. That also forms a solid connection with another person. Not necessarily the person puking their guts out, but the person that you're helping this other person with. Although the person that you're helping with the puking of their guts out, you do have a different type of relationship with them after that, and that is basically you're their party mom, and they owe you big time.
You know what? That's true, but that will also increase the degree of bitterness when they reveal themselves to be the vapid, senseless, dizzy bitch that they actually are. Because it's like, what the hell?
Is this girlfriend resentment again, Polly?
I'm sorry?
Is this girlfriend resentment again?
Yes, but a different one.
Oh. Interesting. I'm gonna need a timeline to sort out all of these girls.
No, you dump them in the river. It washes away any DNA evidence. Oh, well, no. Once you strip the body naked and poured lime on it and some soil, as long as nobody discovers it for a short while, that's all that's left is bones. I mean, if you really want to take it to the next level, you can, make sure you dump the head in a separate location because of the whole dental records thing.
Well, not just, the head. You also got to get the fingerprints. And,
the lime will, if enough time goes by before it's discovered, and it's not that long, lime is so caustic that the fingerprints are gone too. But yeah, you can dump the hands and feet separately if you want.
You also have to take into account if they've had any surgical work done, and perhaps if, like, hip or knee replacements or whatever have a serial number or some sort of experimental what's-it attached to it. You gotta think about that, get rid of that, make sure that, they're not half a person because they've had work done. Because that could help identify that body.
Yeah.
So there are more things that you have to think about too.
I mean, I just find it funny that you get guys like Gary Ridgway or what's his name, the New York hooker killer there. What's his name?
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, which one, right?
You've got a long history of nonsense to go back through.
So, well, you have these serial killers that are out there. They always talk about how they're so methodical, but then they're always leaving bodies to pop up. Okay, let's take a look at the Italian mafia in the East Coast area generally. They want to whack somebody out. That's it. It's done. They're gone. You know how many people had to be declared dead by the court so they could actually proceed with a murder trial? Because well, lots. It's like, well, how is it that these blue collar guys are able to murder so effectively in terms of no bodies being discovered, but these so-called methodical serial killers, keep leaving bodies popping up in fucking rivers and shit? It's like, I don't know. I don't know what the actual answer to that. I think a lot of them are emotionally deranged and have to get drunk to do the killing and so forth. And a lot of them are doing it alone. Whereas like mobsters will go with like 2 and 3 teams, 2 and 3 guys that will like whack someone out. And so like, I don't know. Italian mafia tended to get the job done a lot better because again and again, bodies just were gone and that's it. What happened to them? Well, 20 years later, when somebody got busted for something, they ended up saying what they did with it. And it's like, oh, we dropped it in the concrete. You're going to have to, like, over at this building, you're going to have to tear it apart. We dumped it upstate. We went to Jersey and dumped it in the Pine Barrens. And that's where I'm getting the lime statement from, shallow grave in the woods with lime, because that's the standard thing. Lime's available from any hardware store. It's there's nothing suspicious about somebody buying a big pack of it, and it'll cause a body to decompose within a month. So
yeah, but of course you have to weather that month without any suspicion. Well, see, the other thing is too, right? Not a lot, of the serial killers that I've studied ad nauseum, John Wayne Gacy's the only one that readily comes to mind, and the only reason he was caught was because he fucked up with one of his last victims, and they got away. And I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Dahmer had something similar happen to him, where he fucked up with one of his victims. Like, the victim would have disappeared without a trace had there not been some sort of fluke in his in the effort of kidnapping or in the effort of subduing the victim. I think the very last person that John Wayne Gacy ever kidnapped was actually seen talking to him.
Yeah.
As a result, that's why he was caught. And then Jeffrey Dahmer, the very last person that he was supposed to have victimized, I think got away because he wasn't drugged enough.
And but I mean, Dahmer has oil drums where he's dissolved. Like they kept the bodies. John Wayne Gacy was shoving him literally in his crawl space to the point when the cops came over just to ask him some questions, they could smell the decomposition.
Well, actually, near the end, he was dumping them. He was dumping in the river because he was running out of crawl space. And the only reason I know this is because I did a whole fucking lot of research for a video about the time that my dad almost got kidnapped by John Wayne Gacy, which is still on the channel, actually. You should go totally check it out. It's a great video. Scribe was a guest on that video.
Woohoo!
Yeah!
And how about the guys over at the Gemini Lounge? What the Roy, oh shit, what was his name? He was a captain in the Gambino family.
Yeah. I'm not as, up to date on my mobster history as you are.
Probably. No, fair enough. How many people did they whack out at their Gemini Lounge? God, it's like 200 is the estimation of prosecutors. They could only remember something slightly over 100, like in terms of particularly naming people. And Roy himself was found in the trunk of a car. And that's because Paul Castellano, just look, this guy's whacked this many people. He's involved in this fucking car ring, this car theft ring, and the prosecutors are getting real close to him, and he's going to be looking at, even though it was just car theft, it was larceny on such a order of magnitude that he was looking at 25 years because of all the related crimes to it, including extortion and murder. He was afraid he was going to rat him out, so Castellano has him put out of commission. They found him in the trunk of a car in long-term parking at the airport. You shaking yourself awake there, Weebs? Is it time to wind down?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you 3-minute warning, Polly, because I am starting to fall asleep. Not because you're boring me, but because it's just been a long ass freaking week. Christmas is apparently a lot more exhausting than I thought it would be. Even though I'm no longer at school, it's a different kind of grind.
Yeah, I hear you.
I have to be everywhere all of the time, Polly. Everyone always wants to hang out with me and buy me dinner and shit. It's so inconvenient.
Nice. That is the most pathetic attempt at a humble brag I have ever fucking heard.
Everyone wants to be part of my time.
Shame.
Even you, Polly, you're guilty of this. Oh, Weebo, I want to do a collab.
Yeah, you know what? You want to make me sound like a whiner? You know what, chat? I need your help. We want to do, and we wants to do it too. This hilarious Christmas special.
I do.
Let's hashtag Polly is boring. Well, Assassin of the Grey, you're just lying. No one's buying that. You don't believe that. I go. Let's all collectively chat pressure Weebs to schedule this. We don't even need to record it. We just need to write it. I'm willing to do the editing. How lazy is this woman? My God, man.
I didn't say that I don't want to. I gave you a time that I was available, and you're just like, ignore.
No, it's true. You know what time she gave me? Time when I haven't even gone to bed yet, like 10 a.m. Who the fuck's up then? I'm asleep and detoxifying.
Morning. You had a whole day and a half to can sleep in preparation for this lovely Weebo collab.
So you want to schedule it when?
Okay. Not yesterday morning, because that's already passed. Let's
Oh,
see.
hey, Gutenberg's here. What's up, Good?
I mean, I'm free tomorrow morning. Are you free tomorrow morning?
Oh, what is with this morning thing? God's
I'm
not
over.
even awake then.
Oh please, you're just
I-
a little bitch.
No,
Get over your insomnia.
I am a festive drinker during the festive season, and I'm detoxifying around
All
that
right,
time.
well, detoxify by the morning then.
I-
Well, the only problem is because I have a Christmas party later in the afternoon, so like,
Which
okay,
is going to go to the wee hours.
I don't know. I mean, we can do it later in the night, in the evening. I just don't know how long it goes until. Like, okay, did you want it out before the 25th?
I had hoped.
Okay, all right. In that case, we could do the evening. It'd have to be late. Is that okay, Paul?
That's well, I'm up to the wee hours. It's sort of night owl schedule. Right?
Is that your hang up? You just don't want to be up in the morning super early?
Yes. Well, I mean, is it likely it's going to happen in the morning? I understand that your schedule, like, just going to stop with the jokes. I'm not likely to be awake at that time because I'm a night owl, and so and I know you're awake at that time, so it's kind of like conflict.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tomorrow evening, what time?
Roy DeMeo.
What?
That was the owner of the Gemini Lounge, the captain in the Gambino family.
So what time?
When are you actually going to be back by?
I'll aim for 11. How's that? 11 Central Standard Time.
All right, that works.
Poly collab.
Well, Daniel Folman asked an interesting question. What color are you in Weebo's schedule? I would like to know that myself.
So cocktail hour is sage green, and I think I'll just go with the sage green.
You should have went with chartreuse because that's a liquor. You see.
Sorry, can't work as chartreuse.
What is the difference between sage green and chartreuse? I don't even know.
Chartreuse like a light blue?
No, it's a pale green.
Hang on.
Over on the Strem Labs, thank you very much, Eve. Much appreciated. So, the difference between mobsters and serial killers is the difference between professionals and amateurs. Pros have way more practice. Yeah.
Oh, Gutenberg donated
Yeah.
to tell us to end this shit show. Gee, thanks. Fine, I will. Bye. No, okay, let me do a proper outro because I did say we only had 3 minutes and that was 5 minutes ago. Because Polly procrastinates giving me responses to things. Anyway. Thank you to everyone who showed up. Thank you to everyone who liked. Thank you to Polly for being here even though we were late.
Waiting around for like what? 2.5 hours?
Oh, come on. You probably did something productive in those 2.5 hours.
Well, truth be told, when I texted you 10 minutes before the show was supposed to start, I was in my car. I wasn't even close to my house at the time.
Exactly. See?
But
you see what I have to put up with?
See,
chat?
no. I was trying to live up to your lambasting. That you said you should send a message that you're going to be late and et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, oh yeah. And I looked at the clock and I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get back in time. So I thought, were we even scheduled? That's what started the DMing.
Well, yeah, I thought we were. What? Hang on. What does this mean? PayPal legacy depreciated?
What does that mean?
I just checked the thing because for whatever reason, Eve can't donate to the PayPal. What is this? PayPal legacy. No, deprecated. What? I love finding things out. Yeah.
It's lessening the value of itself.
PayPal. What? Legacy deprecated. What does that even mean? I love finding things out with you on the stream, Polly, because they always just piss me off, don't they?
But shit, that's a bad commentary on my presence.
Well, no,
Angela
not
had an
necessarily
interesting
you.
suggestion here, by the way, Weebs. Sage green is when green kisses gray. Chartreuse is when yellow gets heavy green highlights.
Ooh, beautiful.
Damn, that's a lady who knows her color wheel. Fucking hell.
Oh. PayPal Payflow Pro. What? Huh? Huh? Okay, I'll figure this out later. Sorry. Oh, Gutenberg told us to fucking stop. Sorry, we're gonna stop. Anyway, thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you to everyone who liked, shared, subscribed, commented, all of that jazz. I enjoyed everyone's company and everyone's comments. And, Polly, did you have anything that you wanna... Oh, James Colley also sent a super chat? I'm sorry, I missed it while I was checking things out. When
you know,
this?
you could yell at me with money too, Gutenberg, to stop. I'm not...
Just keep yelling at me with money, it's fine. Fucking stop, Gutenberg, shut it down. Chaos Eve, $7 message to follow. Oh my gosh.
There's other people who can... You can yell at me with money too. I'm here. I have a Streamlabs.
I'm being told several things. James Colley sent the super
Eve.
chat or Streamlabs. I can't tell. Hang on. Alright, I'm trying to find it. Alright, I don't wanna hurt anybody's feelings. I'm trying. No, I don't see anything else. Okay, I think we're all up to date. Unless we're not. In which case, I'm sorry. But Gutenberg is yelling at me. He wants me to get off air.
He's yelling at you with money. It's fine.
I know, but he's yelling at me. I'm a woman.
So much patriarchies.
I'm sensitive, Polly.
No one's buying that shit.
Oh god. Shit. Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you for the $20. Gutenberg, fucking end it. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry. I will. It's over. Bye. Okay, hang on. Pause. When did James Colley send a $10 super chat? Because I did not see it.
Did you actually end it? Because it says live still.
No, I haven't ended it yet. I'm trying to look for this $10 super chat, but I don't see it.
Oh, fuck. Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm quitting. Okay, alright. It's going down. End the broadcast, Weebo. Okay.